Hello, and welcome back to Barn and Soul, the podcast where farming meets heart, history, and the rare and wonderful. I'm Kendall, and today we're stepping into a season people underestimate, but farms deeply depend on, and that's winter. Winter is nature's reset button. It's a built-in pause, a seasonal deep breath. Not because nothing happens, but because everything changes. The land, the animals, the light, our workload, and even our inner peace. But before we dive into the meaning of the quiet season, here are some winter fast facts. The USDA notes that winter freeze-thaw cycles naturally aerate the soil, breaking up compaction without farm equipment. Daylight, not temperature, determines egg production. University poultry programs confirm hens need 14 to 16 hours of light for peak laying. Snow is sometimes called the poor man's fertilizer because it slowly releases nitrogen as it melts. Not enough to replace fertilizer, but enough to matter. Winter reduces parasite pressure in pasture animals. Agricultural extension offices in the Northeast note that cold snaps kill off larvae and slow worm cycles. The Livestock Conservancy emphasizes that many heritage breeds were selected for harsh winters. Their adaptations are centuries old, and they're not accidental. Now, let's step into what the quiet season really means. The quiet isn't empty, it's working. Winter arrives differently on a farm. It's not with the calendar, not with the first snowfall, but when the stillness sets in. There's a buzz, it goes away. The birds quiet down, and even the air gets sharp. Honestly, everything moves more slowly, including us. But the quiet is not nothing. It's strategic. Ecologists describe winter as a stabilizing season, a time when ecosystems conserve strength so they can explode into life later. On the farm, this silence becomes permission to shift our pace, something we rarely allow ourselves in the busy months. Also, winter is one of the most active times for soil health. You just can't see it. As I mentioned, the freeze-thaw aeration. So when moisture in the soil freezes, it expands. When it thaws, it contracts. The USDA describes this as natural soil loosening. This helps break apart compaction, create macropores for water, and it allows roots to penetrate more deeply in spring. Microbes slow down, not stop. So even in cold temperatures, microbial life still keeps digesting organic matter. Winter is when the nutrients stabilize. And with cold stratification, many native plants and even, some garden seeds like milkweed and lupine require periods of freezing temperatures to trigger germination. That cold is not a hardship, it's a signal. Not to mention that snow can work as a form of insulation. A few inches of snow, it can create a thermal blanket that protects soil life from extreme temperature swings. The world might look barren, but it's genuinely preparing. People are always asking me how the animals handle winter. And the thing is that biology, instinct, and heritage breeds, well, it all goes together. Winter is where these amazing breeds truly show who they are. Our Shetland sheep, for example, their dual layer wool is a masterpiece of nature. A fine insulating undercoat and a weather-resistant outer fleece. It also happens to be a gradient color a lot of the times. It's beautifully unique. But this adaptation comes directly from harsh North Atlantic exposure for a long time. The Arapawa Island goats, these goats conserve energy brilliantly, almost like they go into a low gear. Their metabolism slows, they move less, and they withstand cold by eating more fiber and literally huddling. They're very, very smart. If you come by and you see the Sebastopol geese, Shelby, Sebastian, and Effie, yeah, their curly feathers act like down parkas. And people are like, what's wrong with them? Nothing. That's their coat. They are supposed to look like that. And in New England cold, they look way more comfortable than we do. And of course, with chickens, obviously, when their egg production drops, it's not actually because they're cold. It's because short days interrupt the hormones responsible for production. Again, nature's way of saying rest. These animals don't resist winter, they cooperate with it. And I think there's a lesson in that. Okay, I'm in New England. That's where Dolly Farmer's been the last 160-something years. There's some reality here about what winter doesn't let us do. I have to be honest. Realistic, not romantic. A lot of farms in milder regions can spend winter repairing fencing and trenching water lines and moving soil, maybe rebuilding structures. New England farms? Nah, we don't get that luxury, not even close. When the ground is frozen, you're not only hoping that your water lines don't burst, but you can't dig. You can't fix anything that has broken. You can't re-level the ground. You're definitely not resetting fence posts. There's no trench water, nothing being dug, nothing. You're probably not pouring concrete. I guess it depends on the moisture. Maybe if you're in a dry spell, and you can barely get a T-post in. Like you're not doing it. The farm becomes a place you maintain. I'm not even talking about the day-to-day, like the waters that are freezing twice a day. You're constantly replenishing water in 100 different places. Like I said, the farm becomes a place you maintain, not a place you reshape. So winter work here, like I said, it becomes managing frozen water. You become a connoisseur of rubber buckets and creative cross-your-fingers solutions. Your winter work is keeping animals dry and out of drafts. Ventilation matters more than heat, especially with poultry. You're conserving hay, bedding, and energy. Winter feed management is a strategy all its own, which deserves its own episode coming to you soon. It's watching weather like a hawk. Storms in New England dictate the entire week. Are we going to be shoveling for 2 days, trying to get everyone outside? Are we going to be sliding around on a sheet of ice all across the farm? Who knows? It's, Mother Nature's call. And mainly, we try to do micro tasks indoors, organize supplies, planning, repairing tools if possible, updating records, planning educational programming for the following year. But New England winter is just a different beast, and it shapes a different kind of farmer. And that's why you should check out my video about why maybe you shouldn't be a farmer. If you live around here and you think you want animals, watch that video. All right, but so I just mentioned quite a few barriers in winter, things that we can't do, but there is some stuff we can do in a frozen season. Maybe we can't fix infrastructure, but that doesn't mean winter is empty. It it becomes a season of planning. Maybe we're going to do some new garden layouts or grazing plans, or, maybe I'll get organized and have event calendars set up for the new year. How am I going to improve our toddler enrichment programs? Does the website need updating? Hi, I'm recording podcast episodes. You'd better believe I definitely stack a lot of the content creation for times like this. This is where my strategic brain goes nuts, really. I know all spring, summer, and fall to be collecting footage, and then I'm trying to post it every so often, but then I also know that when winter comes, I'm going to sit around and just make a ton of stuff. So then by the time the season starts up again, I have a lot to work with that's already prepared for posting. It's not a perfect system, but it is an example of how I use winter to organize the harder nuance. Yeah, I'm a one-woman show. I'm doing the podcast, I'm doing the marketing, I'm doing the actual event and program running. We are working on scaling ourselves and replacing ourselves in operations so I can further grow our educational stuff. But again, we work in seasons. And winter is when that happens. We also, focus, we say inventory, but the truth is that we do a lot of the inventory in the fall. It's before winter. Feed, bedding, medicine, any tools we could possibly need during the season. We do all of that leading up to winter. But maybe there's other things that we are taking stock of for the upcoming spring. There is some maintenance that can happen indoors, and honestly, the one who could tell you the most about that would be my 87-year-old grandfather. But, sharpening tools, organizing those sheds, cleaning brooder equipment and whatnot that we'll need in the spring, and then, repairing what fits in your hands, not in the ground. In the ground. I will say, arguably, one of the more important things that we are looking at in the wintertime is animal assessment, especially as your animals are getting older. As I say over and over again, we're a pet farm, so nobody goes to market. Everybody is loved and treated like your average cat or dog, except they're farm animals, but we know these animals. They have personalities. They have, they have routines. And when there's extreme changes in season, usually if something is going on with that animal, it is in these transitions where you're going to start to see evidence of it. So maybe there's weight changes. Maybe their coat health isn't looking good. If we're talking about birds, how's the flock dynamic? You can quickly assess who's thriving and who's slowing down. Winter is observational. You see the animals differently because the frenzy of the spring and summer and all of that isn't necessarily blinding you. And winter puts us all into a time of, testing, right? We're all being tested. How are we able to push through something that is putting stress on our bodies? And, as pet owners, as animal lovers, this is an important time to make sure you're really paying attention. And again, similarly, coming out of that season, coming out of winter into spring, how are they acting? Is it better? Is it fine? Is there something going on? Do you need a vet? Lots of things to be paying attention to anyway, if you're somebody who loves your pets. But yeah. I think that there's philosophy of winter, right? Stillness is productive. Winter forces something modern life has honestly made us forget, that rest is part of the natural cycle. Humans have become the only species that tries to operate at full tilt 365 days a year. And then you have winter, which is asking us to slow, reflect, notice, repair emotionally, plan mindfully, conserve energy, trust dormancy, stop performing, let ourselves be quiet. Trees have let go of their leaves. Animals reduce their activity. Some go into hibernation. You don't see them. 6 months. Shut down. Soil turns inward. Winter is not a gap. It's preparation disguised as rest. And farms feel this deeply. Winter teaches us that slowing down is not failing, dormancy is not death, preparation is not wasting time, clarity arrives in quiet, rest is a kind of growth, cycles matter, we don't have to be on all year. The next chapter needs a clean slate. And maybe nature isn't asking us to hustle harder. Maybe she's asking us to align ourselves with something older than productivity. And that's rhythm. Oh, while we're at it, it's not a Barn and Soul podcast without one of these. Here are some winter facts no one talks about. I've already said this twice. I'm not going to do it again. I'm going to just reference it lightly. Nobody talks about how cold dramatically improves soil structure. Nobody. If they do, I haven't heard it. According to the NRCS soil scientists, a harsh winter can do the equivalent of light tillage without machinery. We should be celebrating this. Those things are expensive. Trees don't just sleep. They reroute their entire metabolism. During dormancy, deciduous trees pull sugars down into their roots. This is why maple sap rises in late winter. The tree is waking up and pushing stored sugars back upward. Cold reduces internal parasites in pasture animals, but not evenly. So, gross. Roundworm eggs in goat and sheep pastures die rapidly once temps drop below freezing. But others are barely affected. So like coccidia, for example. So like winter helps. It doesn't erase parasite management, but it definitely helps. You know, if you pay attention, you can see the animals on our farm start to really get fluffy. And I don't mean that like in any other way than literally fluffy. Mammals adjust coat density based on day length, not cold. This means your goats and sheep start prepping months ahead. Even house pets start growing winter coats in August. And I mentioned this too already, but I still find it fascinating that snow actually does protect winter vegetables. It does make sense, but it also feels a little counterintuitive. But farmers who overwinter kale, spinach, or carrots, they know that snow is insulation. Under a foot of powder, soil will stay around 32 degrees Fahrenheit even when the air is below zero. That's pretty darn cool. So, winter reduces predator pressure in some respects, but it concentrates it. Many predators travel farther and hunt more desperately. So, New England farms can see weasels, foxes, coyotes, fisher cats more frequently in winter, and usually for short, intense bursts. I don't know if I've ever mentioned lovey-dovey here. We had a dove named Lovey, I know, but and we'd never had weasels. None of us in my grandpa's 80+ years of life never saw a weasel on the farm. I had seen one in our hay barn. And then 2 days later, our dear bird, who only came out in the nice months. So this is like the beginning, the end of, how do I say this? The beginning of the warm part of spring, if that makes sense, when she was able to come outside and live in her little enclosure, her aviary. We didn't know that weasels only need a hole the size of a quarter, or a hot dog. I can't remember. Same idea. If you ever have bunnies, birds, like in an outdoor pen, make sure it's got really, really thin, small openings in the wire, because it's really terrible to lose a bird to a weasel. Anyway, but yeah, so you don't maybe see as many predators like the hawks and stuff, but you definitely do run the risk with more of the smaller predators. Something that's interesting, and I always love and notice this every single year, is how winter changes the soundscape of the farm. Cold air is denser, which carries sound differently. And that's why everything feels more quiet, and why animals, when they call in the winter, it sounds sharper and even closer. So, people always say that chickens don't lay as many eggs in the winter because of XYZ. First and foremost, daylight matters, as I said. But also, something you may not realize is that hens naturally reduce laying in winter because there are fewer insects. Really, it's an evolutionary break. It's that protects their bodies during low nutrition seasons. So it's true. Daylight affects it, but also their food supply, technically in nature would start to go down a little bit too. So they would put less stress on their bodies to get through the season. And lastly, winter humility is a real thing. Farmers in northern climates talk about winter as a season that puts you back in your place. You can't outwork it. You can't force projects. You really do have to accept reality and wait. This psychological shift, surrendering to the season, especially for a type A, like nonstop going family like ours, is easily one of winter's biggest teachers. In 2015, we had the worst winter I think I've been alive for in my 36 years. And when I say that, I mean there was like a foot of snow every other day, I think. We had like 15 feet of snow. And we were at the point of having daily panic attacks over, oh gosh, 2 more inches of snow tonight. The roof's gonna collapse. I mean, it was, and let alone we didn't have our gator yet, the John Deere gator. We didn't have those yet. So trying to snow blow paths all around the farm, trying to get into the enclosures. Some of the animals won't come out, but you still need to get them fresh air and the option. And oh my gosh, it was just one of the most intense, terrifying, stressful. I was 26. It was so bad. It was so scary. So when they say winter humility is real, I fully agree with that. And we have everyone in my family has our own story of how we've been humiliated by winter too. So as New England winter moves in and everything starts to freeze and the world gets quieter and the farm settles into its cold season, I hope this episode gives you permission to meet the season where it is. Slow, gentle, restorative, purposeful, preparing. Winter is not the space between the good parts. Winter is one of the good parts. And listen, before I let you go, do me a favor and consider buying at least one present this year, this holiday season, from a small shop like the Dalby Farm Country Store, for example. We ship nationwide. There's pantry goods, there's home decor, goat milk soaps and lotions. There's so many things on there. I implore you to visit our shop and see if you can't find a gift for someone you know, because it's actually 2 gifts in one. Anytime you purchase from our shop, which you rarely hear me promote, this is my 26th podcast episode, and maybe I mentioned it at the end of the episode in like a copy paste little blurb thing, but I don't normally try to hit you over the head with throwing money to my farm. But that being said, if you're going to go spend money on stuff, why would you put it in the pockets of someone who's going to further destroy our environment? Why would you give it to a soulless corporation? Really try to think outside the box this year. And even if the money doesn't go to our farm and our endangered farm family and all the animals here, because 50% of every purchase, basically, once we make the money back on paying for the product to be in the store, the money made on it goes into the mouths and bodies of our animals. We don't make money here. It's just to keep things moving. Our programs slow way down in the winter, and so does all of our income. So the purchases from the store help us go along with more ease than usual. So this is me just saying, it's open year round. The store is always there. You can purchase no matter what time of year it is. But right now, if you hear this and you're in the position to make a few gift purchases, I do ask you to check out our shop and just see if there's something there, because I promise it will make a difference to our animal family and our farm. So, yeah, thank you. And with that, I leave you. Look around. What are your natural surroundings telling you? You'll be hearing this about a week before Thanksgiving, if I'm doing my math correctly. So we won't be in winter yet, which was strategic because I want you to observe winter and drop me some thoughts or send me an email or something and tell me what you love or hate about this season. Or maybe tell me about what you notice about your animals, because I know some of you out there listening have animals. What do you see during winter? I'd love to hear more from you all. I do touch on some odd topics here and there, and maybe even some controversial ones from time to time, but let's chat. But until next time, take care. If you enjoyed this episode, please share, leave a comment, maybe a question I can answer in a future episode. Subscribe to the channel, you know the whole deal. And of course, you can visit dolbyfarm.com. We do ship nationwide. Our country store has something for everybody. So I hope, and please know that all purchases, I believe it's at least 50% of each and every purchase goes directly back to the care and upkeep of this family farm. So we thank you very much. I hope this finds you well, and we'll see you next time. Oh, and don't forget to appreciate the rare and wonderful things in life.